Welcome back. If we made it through here, that means that we were able to successfully source control our database, and we were able to set up the continuous integration step on Azure Devops server. What we have left to do is to set up the continuous deployment step, and we're going to do that onto Azure Devops as well, and it's going to be pretty much on the line of what we have done in the previous step. So what is the checklist for this section? Well, we're going to need to install the SQL Change Automation add-on on the marketplace into Azure Devops server. We're going to need to configure the steps to make automatic release into testing and production. We're going to run a manual build and release just to make sure that everything works okay. We're going to review what is the outcome of the release artifact, because it has some information that is very important when it comes down to understanding what changed. And then we just wrap it up to make sure that everything is ready to run in a proper CI/CD pipeline. So without any further ado, let's move to the virtual machine. So now, the first thing that we need to do is to install the add-on. So same thing that we did before, browse the marketplace, and here we're just gonna look for Redgate. Here we're gonna need the module for the release. We get it for free. And this is going to be fine. Proceed to collection, that's good. Okay, so we can then drill back to our pipeline release. We don't have a release pipeline yet. Let's create a new one. The first thing we'd like to do is here on, of course, select an empty job. The first step is going to be the testing stage. So that means that we're going to deploy the new build artifact into the testing environment. We need to select what is the type of artifact that will trigger this build, and this deployment, sorry. It's going to be the build from a source, which is a pipeline, which is CI, and that's just great. Now here in testing, we need to configure a few things. So we already configured the agent. It's going to be inherited from the previous step, which is great. We need to add a few tasks, and here we can just go with Redgate, release, and we're going to need 2 of them. Here we go. The first step is going to be all about creating a release artifact, something that we can touch and feel and review. Here we're going to point the plugin to the correct folder, which is this one. So CI build database build artifact. And then we can define an export path. So in order to do so, we can essentially create a folder within our file system. So let me just open the File Explorer real quick. And if we go under the desktop, we have one here called Releases. We can use this one as well, right? I can just copy this one as well. Let me just get rid of this. Let's start from a clean state. There you go. I'll copy the URL, the path, and just append it here. Fine. Going down, we need to pass some information about connection. So namely the target SQL Server instance, which is the full qualified name. And I just put it aside, and you can just derive it pretty easily from SQL Server Management Studio. The target database name, again, we can use SQL Server Management Studio. And in this case, it is going to be Acme Testing. Here we go. Now, the authentication method can be Windows authentication, which is pretty good. This should make it. Then perform create database package. Here we need to specify that they want to deploy database changes from a release artifact, which is what we've done in the step before. The deployment resources path is the path to this folder right here. All right, and just take it and just deploy it, oops, without the hyphen. The SQL Server instance name is going to be, again, this, nice and easy. Acme Testing, it's going to be the name of the target database name, and we're going to use Windows authentication. So everything looks okay. We can save. All right, and now, once we have saved, we can create a new release. This new release will deploy into testing. I'm going to use the version number 1 of the CI, which is fine. And we're going to just create. All right, the new release is here. It's not yet automated, so we have to manually deploy it. Let's click deploy. And everything here should work fine. Downloading the artifacts, we are performing the creation. It should take a minute or so. Boom, everything worked okay. So let's make a little bit of due diligence to make sure that everything worked fine. So first, let me just refresh here, Acme testing, to make sure that, some of the changes that we made in dev are actually available here. So the first one was, under the tables, we wanted to make sure that under contacts we had the Twitter handle column, which is here, sweet. Then if you remember, we created a stored procedure, which is available under programmability. And we have it here, the get user details, which is sweet. Also notice that in Acme Dev, under the stored procedures, so programmability stored procedures, we have the full-blown list of the T-SQL framework, whereas here in testing, we don't have it, which is great, because SQL tests should only be carried over into dev, but they should not be carried over into testing. So the last few things that we have to do is to kind of automate this process so that every time a new release is available, a new build package is available on the CI step, a new release will be created. I'm going to do that for testing. For production, it's going to be the same, but I don't want to take too much of your time. To do that, we're going to go back to our pipeline, and we would just want to edit our pipeline. So I'm going to go here, that's fine, and we're going to edit the pipeline here. So first, we want to make sure that every time we have a new build available here, we're going to have the continuous deployment, which means automatically we're going to trigger the first stage. Great. Then here we want to make sure that the first testing stage, here we're going to go, after the release, we want to have an automatic triggering of the jobs and the tasks and not a manual one, which is great. That is pretty much everything we need to do. For production, again, I don't want to share that with you right now, but for production, you just have to clone it and just edit a bunch of things and you're going to be good to go. So in the next section, we're going to go in a step-by-step exercise, which is going to bring everything together.